the stream button. Okay. So now is it working? Let's refresh the phone here. Oh, dude, I'm online. Sweet. So, I guess that means I have to entertain everybody. Do something entertaining. I had a plan for something I was going to do, actually. You know, might as well do it today. You only live once, isn't that the saying? Or as it's more commonly parlanced, YOLO. So let's do that. I'm gonna check the chat here and see if anybody said anything yet. Doesn't look like it. Looks like it's pretty barren down there. But anyways, this is a fan fiction that I have previously read on this channel. I'm going to take a moment here to adjust my speaking voice. Alright. Yes. Okay, so you know, I should probably snap this to the side so I can always see your guys' comments a little bit here, because that's a good thing to do. Alright, We Who Are Different is the name of the story. I've never read chapter 4 and added it, so that's what I'm going to be doing today. And let me just update this description here. Okay, so there's that, so you guys know what to look for there. Now be careful not to blow up the chat. I'm very anxious because this is the first time I've ever live streamed on YouTube. Some of you who know me in the real life might know that I was actually on Facebook a couple times live streaming, you know, Overwatch and other Blizzard games, because Blizzard has this feature where you can just go into any of their games and you just like push stream to Facebook and it streams without like any trouble whatsoever. Now for this I had to install some encoding software, and they made me fill out what industry I was a part of. So because I didn't really know like what to term this industry, I said, okay, file me under post-production small as Trigonometry Films, and that's not a real company, so if they go looking for that, I might get sued or something. But, you know, that probably is not going to happen. That's probably not going to... you know what, I'm just going to shut up and read this story, okay? So this is chapter 4. It's called Think Too Much. The sun was drifting slowly towards the horizon as Andrew and Violet approached the edge of the market. The human was pulling the wagon while his new employee sat on it. Violet listened intently to Andrew as he explained basic repairs and safety guidelines. When she got to Sugar Cube Corner, the first thing she noticed was the wagon outside, and how it now said, Sully and Co. Fix-It Wagon. And that's why, when you're working with electronics, you need to ground yourself first. My uncle had a stutter ever since then. Andrew stopped in front of the Ponyville General Store, where the sign that hung over the door had fallen. He turned around to face Violet. I'll be back. I'm going to... I'll be back. I'm gonna go tell Knick-Knack we're here. Violet nodded as he walked away. Jumping off the wagon, she walked over to the fallen sign. It was big, longer than Andrew was tall. A long, jagged crack ran along its surface. Andrew walked out of the store, followed by a gray pony wearing a red and white striped apron. The human approached the sign and studied it. "Well, it's in pretty bad shape, Mr. Knack." He began scratching his head. "I could put it back up, but with that crack there, a subtle fart could snap it in two." Knick-Knack rubbed his chin as he stared at the sign. "Do you think you can make me another one?" "Absolutely, but it would bump the cost up to 120 bits. It'll also take me a few days at least." Andrew and Violet watched as Mr. Knack thought it over. "I can work with that," he finally said as he offered the human a hoof. Andrew shook it firmly. The shopkeeper went back inside after discussing some of the details with Andrew. Andrew pointed at one end of the sign. "Help me get this onto the wagon. Be careful. It wouldn't take much to break it at this point." They placed the sign on the wagon, and Andrew was about to start pulling the wagon when something hit him in the chest. Looking down, he saw something that caused him to sigh deeply. He looked up to find out who threw the banana. Laughter brought his attention to the culprits, a group of teens who were pointing and laughing at him. That's a probably more evil laugh than most teenage ponies would use, but all the same. All right, okay. Noticing the glare he was giving them, one of the teens began shouting at him. "What's the matter, monkey shit? Aren't you hungry?" It's his. I'm just gonna roll with it. His outburst caused the others to laugh harder. Violet noticed that no pony acknowledged what was happening. In fact, a couple stopped to watch. Wait, what? Okay. Then the kid said something that got her attention. "Hey guys, look, he's got a van pony with him." "Shouldn't you be inside, Van Pony?" one of his friends began. "I thought you guys burned in the sunlight. We should have brought some sunblock for you." Their antagonistic laughter caused Violet to shrink, her ears folding back on her head. Like that. But, without touching them. Her wings slowly extended to wrap around herself, her eyes never leaving the ground. She never noticed Andrew's eyes, how the emotion in them shifted from surprise at her, becoming a target of ridicule, to a glare directed at the teenagers. Their laughter stopped one by one as they noticed his eyes. The human was, for the most part, passive towards any prejudice thrown at him, only resisting in his first few months of his arrival. Violet noticed the quiet as she took a tentative glance at the ne'er-do-wells, only to see Andrew taking slow steps towards them, rolling up the sleeves of his flannel work shirt. Every pony, including those who stopped to watch, and those who were walking by, had looks of fear and surprise on their faces. The human stood over the teenagers, his brow furrowed and the banana in his hand. He raised the fruit and pointed it at the kids, one by one. Each one flinched as he did. When he spoke, his voice fostered a feral growl, and he made extra care to make sure he bared his teeth with each word. Who threw it? His eyes held the fires of hell itself. The children were quick to point out the culprit. Andrew tossed the banana at his hooves. He has feet. "I hate bananas. Keep that in mind next time." He shifted his gaze to the others. "Beat it." They continued to stare at the now angry human. "Beat it!" They ran off with their tails between their legs. Andrew sighed and returned to the wagon with a softer expression on his face. Violet noticed how he wouldn't look her in the eye as he approached. He grabbed the wagon and was about to start pulling when he saw the other ponies watching him. "Show's over," he shouted as he began pulling. They left the marketplace in the direction of Andrew's house. The quiet was awkward, neither knowing what to say. Violet began to notice how far out of town she lived. How far out of town he lived. She lived by town hall. Why did he live so far out? Was it because of the ponies? Or did he just prefer open space? She was brought out of her thoughts by the human's voice. Sorry. He didn't look back at her, but his head was visibly drooping. Violet didn't know what to say. She admitted to herself that when Andrew shouted and got angry, he was kind of scary. I try not to let them get to me, but sometimes I don't know. He shook his head as he pulled up to his garage. He straightened himself and turned around to face Violet. I'm usually here in the mornings, getting things ready to head out, so meet me here at the usual time from now on. She helped him get the sign in the garage, then they said goodbye and she went home. Oh man, I get to voice Rarity in this scene. Oh, if you haven't watched my previous installments, there's definitely a reason you should recognize Rarity's voice. Well, what am I waiting for? Let's just keep going. We're not all the way through yet. Anyways, Violet was sitting in her living room holding a book. She wasn't reading it so much as staring at while thinking about Andrew. When she left his house, he looked sad. The more she thought of it, the less she thought he was sad, but in pain. Not a physical pain so much, but an inner turmoil that couldn't be put into words. Can't be put into words. She's seen that look before, on the faces of the Thestral guards in her old home, and the face her father has when he thinks no one is looking. She was pulled from her contemplation by a knock at her door. Oh, sorry. That was proper. I corrected it. She was pulled from her contemplation by a knock, her door. Putting the book away, she walked toward her door, wondering who was there. It was late. In fact, the sun was setting. When she opened it, she was surprised by who was on the other side. It was Applejack, Pinkie Pie, Rarity, and a cyan Pegasus with a rainbow mane. Then Rarity spoke. Violet, darling, do you think you could do us a favor? See what I mean? Alright, anyways. Oh man, this is gonna be like the longest video on my channel. I hope I get views for this. Thanks for sticking around, by the way. I noticed the 2 people left. So, thanks for staying, even if you didn't say anything in the live chat. Did I enable live chat? Maybe I have to enable it or something. Enable live chat. Yeah, it's enabled. It's good. Well, alright. In that case, let's see. I can manage a moderator if I want to. I don't think we need a moderator. I think we're fine. Andrew sat with his eyes closed. Thoughts raced from one side of his mind to the other. From the outside, he seemed to be sleeping, but he was fully awake, which is half of why he was here, sitting on an all-too-familiar bench. He had taken off his work shirt and replaced it with his hoodie. The human couldn't remember how long he had been out here. He felt a presence near him. A smile grew on his features as he remembered the last time this happened. That was in a previous chapter in this story. I'm sorry, I didn't read that. But it's very long. Alright, so, like I said, I prefer the stares of infatuation to be on my good side. He opened his eyes to see a now red-faced Violet, but she only smirked and rolled her eyes before taking a seat next to the human. Any awkwardness from earlier seemed to have melted away as they sat on that bench where they met the other day. What brings you out here? I was going to ask you the same thing. Violet fired back with a smirk. The human looked up at the stars with a look of inconclusive thought. He didn't know what to say. You ever just, I don't know, think? Though he couldn't see Violet's confused visage, he continued, I think when I'm at home, and when I'm at work. I think when I'm happy, when I'm sad, and when I'm not particularly either. I think when I'm alone, and I think when I'm with others. I think about good things. I think about bad things. I think about things in between. I think about my mother, my father, my sister, and brother. I think about my old life, my old job, my old friends. I think about my new life, my new job, my new friends. Okay, it's not written quite like that. I think about my new life, my new friends. I think about Twilight, AJ, Skittles, Fluttershy, Rarity, and Pinky. I think about Big Mac, Princess Celestia, Princess Luna, and more recently, he finally moved his gaze to Violet. You. This caused Violet's face to redden again. I think about my orders, my projects, and the sculptures that I make out of the leftover scraps. I think when I'm awake, when I eat, and when I'm trying to sleep. I think too much, don't you think? Oh, man. Violet stared at him for a few seconds, trying to comprehend what he said. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame her. That was quite a soliloquy. I hope there's one of these in every chapter. The bench rant in the last chapter was pretty good, so hopefully the next chapter has something, I don't know, about, like, the nature of ponies who eat grass versus ponies who don't. Something like that. But anyways, let's just keep going. Violet stared at him for a few seconds, trying to comprehend what he said. So, she started before raising a brow, you can't sleep? This caused the human to start laughing like a madman. Violet joined in shortly after. That's my best madman laugh. It's very closely related to my best villain laugh. But I guess a little more deranged. Anyways, let's keep going. I guess that is what I was trying to say. He leaned over to Violet and whispered, Did the girls put you up to this? She widened her eyes as she looked back at the human. She mouthed the word, how? And the human merely pointed to a nearby bush with a curly pink tail sticking out. Wow, yeah, I can imagine that in the show. They're not very good at that, but let's humor them for a bit. They relaxed back into their seats. Violet had a thought that caused her ears to fall flat, which Andrew noticed. What's on your mind? Why do you sit at this particular bench? Andrew got as comfortable in the bench as he could. For the first 6 or 7 months, I would come and sit on this bench. Why? To wait. He crossed his legs and placed an arm on the back of the bench. For a portal or a miracle. Anything that would take me home. He pointed to the spot where the grass was a lighter green than the ground around it. It was so unnoticeable that Violet would never have seen it if Andrew hadn't pointed at it. That's where I got here. The grass has always brighter in that spot since. I stopped coming here after the princesses told me they couldn't get me home. Then why did you come here now? A bitter smile spread on Andrew's face. Because I can't let go. I try with all my might, too, but I can't. Back when I was still coming here on the daily, it filled me with just a little hope. Hope that a miracle would happen. So I come here nowadays in search of that hope. He looked over at Violet, catching her eyes. And for a brief moment, they looked into each other's eyes. Did I mention there's a romance tag on this? We're probably not going to get to it because the chapter's almost over, but yeah. Let's see, they looked into each other's eyes. Violet saw the love he had for his friends, the hope that he wished he could find, and the agony he tried so desperately to hide. She jumped when he finally spoke. Earlier today, when I drove those kids off, it was the first time in 2 years that I stood up to ponies like that. But I didn't do it for myself. Violet gaped when she realized what he meant. He smiled before standing up and walking away, only to stop by the suspicious bush. I'm sorry about last night, girls. 4 heads popped out of the bush. Pinky was the only one to respond without a groan. It's no problem, Andy. Rarity spoke as she magicked the leaves out of her mane. We really shouldn't have cornered you like that, dear. We should apologize. Our bad, Sully. Rainbow floated over and lightly punched his shoulder. It's okay, but I'm really sorry, AJ. We promised never to speak about that argument. And I broke it. I'm sorry. Andrew looked at Applejack with great regret on his face, and a fist extended towards the farmer. oh, like that. We cool? Applejack hoof-bumped the human with a smile. It's not a problem. Like Rarity said, we shouldn't have cornered you like that. Andrew smiled, said goodbye, and walked away, leaving the girls and Violet, who was lost in thought. After a few moments, she had come to a conclusion. If Andrew needed hope, then she would do all she could to help him find it. And that's the end of the chapter. Honestly, I was probably just going to test this thing out, so I'm probably just going to end it at this point. I don't know if there's a way for me to keep this here after the stream is over. Viewers will be able to seek blah blah blah. Okay, blah. Make archive unlisted when complete. So I guess if I don't check that, this should stick around. So, alright, yeah, I think that's good. If you guys, or if you and the rest of my subscriber base end up wanting me to read more of these, more chapters of this, you can leave a comment or something. That'll let me know that this was entertaining to sit through. But I'm guessing that it was because, well, not only did you stick around, but I mean, I just had a lot of fun. And if I'm entertained, it just makes sense for everybody else to be entertained. So I'm going to figure out how to turn this off so I can stop blabbering here.